Where are you?
Are we
there
back?
You are.
We're back?
Yeah.
Oh,
There
all
we
right.
are.
Well,
Yeah.
welcome back to another Live Feed Reads edition. I'm Paul Reed, your host, with Jason Crawford, the Ed McMahon to my Johnny Carson. A little background change. It's summertime, so I finally been able to get in the pool and do a little swimming. Jason, you know, for you,
Nice.
if you came over, I think you'd be more of the pond. You know, we got a pool, but there's a pond. Oh, I love that movie. So anyway, what else? It's Friday, what, June
Were you
24th?
just making a horror movie reference?
That's pretty cool. No, that was what's the one, Vacation, where Chevy Chase
okay.
is talking to his cousin, uncle, in-law. Says, well, we
Yeah.
got a pool, but we got a pond. Yeah, you know, the pond probably be good for you. That's hilarious. So Jason,
I thought you were making
pool.
like a Jason
Hey, I'll be
Murr
in the
like
pool,
movie reference.
and you get the pond.
Got you. Oh, I appreciate that.
All
At
right,
least I'm
so
part of the family, right?
needless to say, there's a lot going on in the world today as it relates to the United States Supreme Court, to Congress, and things of that nature. Of course, I don't know if you knew it, but today the official striking down of Roe versus Wade occurred.
Okay.
So you know, I guess we'll just see what happens. You know, simple. Here's what happens. Bottom line is, it goes back to the states to regulate the laws on abortion. There, of course, are going to be states like California and Massachusetts and things of that nature that are going to have very liberal abortion laws. And there are states which have laws that went into effect immediately upon the striking down of Roe versus Wade that outlaws abortions in that state. I think there were 13 of them that we had talked about a few weeks ago. So, you know, that's it. Now the next one here, which is you had brought up the fact that Hillsborough County, and I believe it's the Tampa Police Department on this one. Let's see, Tampa Police have a buy back your gun weekend Saturday, this Saturday at like I think it's from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Again, June 25th. And there's two of them: West Tampa Community Center and on the southeast corner of East Bird Street, Interstate 75. That's the dog track. Just so you'll know, that area they're talking about on Bird Street and 275 is the old Tampa Greyhound track. Got a big parking lot there, so they'll be buying back guns. And I know you would ask, well, who the heck would do that? And is it even? Is this a scam or a gimmick?
Yeah, that was my thought.
I guess 7 years ago, we did a little research and they were buying back guns for $50. This was the last time they did it, and they got over 500 guns.
Okay.
I remember way back when the news, and they'll do it again, they'll put a photograph of some of the guns that were purchased. A lot of them are old and probably don't even work, but some of them were aggressive guns with no questions asked. And my guess would be maybe people have relatives that are no longer with them or are in prison, or I just don't want this gun in my house. But either way, there will be guns being sold back on this coming Saturday. And so, you know, what the heck? The problem is, believe it or not, I believe there is somewhere of the tune of 120 guns for every 100 people in America. So that's 200 million, 300 million guns. You know, it's nice. You're going to get somebody $100. Is it going to do anything? Absolutely not. But I'm not going to poo-poo it. You know, if it takes one gun out of somebody's hand that doesn't deserve it, so be it. But that led me to number two talking points today. There's a big stink going on in the country. Of course, the conservatives versus the liberals about the
your appointment reminder.
The Congress, the United States Congress, trying to pass federal regulations on some form of gun control. The Senate passed a bill. It's going to the House. And I mean, honestly, it's ridiculous. It's in response to the Uvalde, Texas shooting, and then
Right.
the supermarket up in wherever that was, Michigan or Chicago or
Yeah.
I don't know, wherever it was, some town, that shooting as well, and all others. But here's the deal: it's a joke. It's not even a band-aid, and they're touting it like both sides touting it like they're doing America a favor. So let's talk about the federal law that they're trying to pass and how it's going to save lives. Number one, it enhances background checks for 18 to 21 years old. Okay. It doesn't prohibit a 21-year-old, I mean, an 18 or a 19 or 20-year-old from buying a gun. It just enhances background checks. Whoop-de-doo.
Okay.
If you don't
Right.
have a criminal record and you don't have any history of mental health,
Right.
you're going to sail right on through that background check. So that, meaningless. Number two, it closes this boyfriend loophole. Now, what that is simply, currently the federal law bars people from purchasing a firearm if you're convicted of basically domestic violence, but if you're living with that person, right? So you have to be living with them. You got to be married to them, or you have a child with them. So if you're convicted of domestic violence and you live with, married to, or have a kid with, you're prohibited from buying a gun. Well, they are a boyfriend. You live where you live, and I live where I live.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't live together, and you or I beat the hell out of one another. Domestic violence, that doesn't prohibit either one of us from purchasing a gun because I don't live with a partner, I'm not married to a partner, and I don't have children with a partner. So the boyfriend loophole is simply, no matter where you live, if you beat up, your significant other, you can be convicted of domestic violence. You can be prohibited from owning a firearm.
Okay.
Whoop-de-doo. Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, it's good, but is that going to save kids at school, people at the mall? Nah.
No.
It
not
may
do
very well,
anything for mass
it may very
shootings,
well
right?
save the partner from getting
Sure.
blasted. But again, feel good Band-Aid. I don't see it doing a whole lot. Sounds good. Oh, we've closed the boyfriend loophole. Oh, gee, they closed the boyfriend loophole. Wow.
You know what's interesting is I was looking at the FBI's data on shooter incidents, and they really start to take an increase from about 2000 up. And I guess you could kind of look at the graph or whatever and say that they spike from 2000 to 2010, and then they spike from 2010 to 2020. What's really interesting is that every time that we make laws, it doesn't change. It doesn't really put any kind of dent in it. But also the increase in use of social media coincides.
Well,
I'm not saying it's causal.
I agree 100%. I believe
it definitely coincides
100%.
with an increase.
100%.
And I think that has a lot more to do with the emotional state of people, and less to do with what's in their hand at the moment. But
I believe the internet plays a huge role in what's going on in America. Just that simple.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. So the federal law, what else does it? It doesn't ban any specific weapons. Oh, that's good. So it doesn't ban any specific weapons. You hear all the stink about the AR-15.
Right.
So it doesn't do that. Okay, whoa. What else does the federal? Oh, and I'll get to red flag laws. Florida has them. It doesn't create a federal avenue from which to go to a federal court judge and get a gun removed from someone who is a threat to themselves or someone else. All it does is incentivizes states to create their own red flag laws. What does that mean? We'll give you money if you create a red flag law. Whoop-de-doo. Okay. And that's also, red flag is a risk protection order. And what that is if the police the authorities feel that someone is a threat to themselves or someone else, they can go ask a judge and say, Judge, Jason threatened to shoot his whatever, his family up and so forth because, Crystal didn't make the chili right. So they can go and have your gun taken away.
Chili.
Yeah, I love chili.
Yeah.
So I mean, but the federal law doesn't do that. And then
so red flag laws are meant to do.
Yeah, I'll get to that. Red flag laws. Florida has one.
Okay.
As do 18 other states. And then finally the federal and what it did was it redefined what's called a federally licensed firearm dealer. Basically, there's like 52,000, 53,000 firearm dealers, meaning you're registered, you can sell guns, ammunition. Okay. And if you're a federally licensed firearm dealer, you have to do a background check, believe it or not.
To become one, or on who you sell to?
On who you sell it to.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
And so there was I don't want to call it a loophole, but there was a provision that if you're a private seller, meaning I want to sell my gun to you,
right,
I don't have to do a background check.
Okay.
So they redefined what a federally licensed firearm dealer is. And I got to be honest, I looked briefly. I don't know if that means a private seller or not, but my guess is that's what they're trying to do, because I think
you're trying to narrow that in.
Well, what happens is, and I could be wrong, and I'm sure someone would correct us, but at the I think at those gun shows that occur at the fairgrounds, I believe that's where a lot of the private seller gun transactions occur, and for those transactions, you don't need a background check. Now, I have been at the fairgrounds when they have these, and like Shoot Straight will have a big booth. Well, they're a federally licensed firearm dealer. They have to do background checks, but there are booths there of individuals, and I believe that's what they're trying to prevent from happening, that individual from selling you a gun. And my guess is twofold. One, when you buy a gun at a federally licensed dealership, you have to fill out a form. The government knows what you're buying and who has what, because I've bought a lot and I know that. And so, but that having said, to me, Jason, this does nothing. And the people in Washington that are patting themselves on the back,
they want to be seen doing something.
Yeah,
they can't. Something like that can't happen, and people throw a big stink about it, and then be seen doing nothing. They've got to be seen.
Well,
doing
I know,
something.
but that's the point. Is it and the NRA that's all up in arms over it? Why? It doesn't do anything, honestly. But and the funny part is, here's Florida law. Okay, and what people don't realize, and especially the people that are in Florida, that are up a stink about what's going on in Congress. Okay, Florida, we have a 3-day waiting period. If Jason, let me try a 3-day waiting period, unless you have a concealed weapons permit. Okay. Do you have a concealed weapons permit? Okay, you don't. I do, so I can use this easily. You and I both walk into Shoot Straight or Shooter's World or wherever. And we both want to buy the same gun. It doesn't matter. Same gun. I put mine on the counter with my guy. You put yours on the counter. He does a background check because Florida requires background checks, of course, as the federal government does. And I can walk out. Let's say we both come back. We're both eligible. You can buy your gun. I can buy my gun. 15 minutes, 20 minutes later, I can walk out with mine. You've got to come back in 3 days to get yours.
Okay.
All right. So we have a waiting period. Oh, the federal government, they didn't include a waiting period on this. Why not? A little cooling off period, but they didn't. Florida does. We have a red flag law. A red flag law, basically, it's really called a risk protection order. Okay. And it just means basically the authorities can go to court and say, Judge, this individual is mentally unstable, which is the great majority of these risk protection orders. Okay. Or this person has threatened someone or has actually injured someone. I remember looking at the Tampa Bay Times article about this, which kind of made me think about it. And the example they give, a couple. One was a father gets angry at his school. Something happened. One of the teachers or administrators, and he says, "I'm going to go get my gun and shoot up everybody." Well, needless to say, there was a risk protection order requested and granted. Another one was, and husband and wife, or man and woman, I should say, I guess, were driving down Interstate 275 with a kid in the back seat. She was bitching about how fast he was going. He whipped out the gun and blasted her. Well, not only did he get charged with aggravated battery, they took his gun away under a red flag risk protection order.
Wow.
Schizophrenic at Riverview and at a business. He's angry. He thinks someone's stealing from him. He keeps his cell phone in the microwave so the government can't get his information in a risk protection order. So I would say that probably 99.9% of risk protection orders, they're not granted haphazardly. You have to convince a judge that someone actually is a danger to themselves or someone else, and then they grant it. The risk protection order, the red flag order, lasts for 1 year unless it's extended. So it's not permanent.
So some permanent. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So that's number 2. So we've got a 3-day waiting period. We've got red flag laws.
And these are things that already existed in Florida.
In Florida, yep.
Not
already
as a response.
Forget whatever the jokesters up in Washington are doing. This is what we have. You have to get a permit to have a concealed. I'm doing my stuff. Concealed weapon. You have to have a permit, which means you have to go fill out forms, and you have to go to a more thorough background check in order for that to occur.
Okay.
Right now, Florida does not allow open carry, meaning you can't walk around with a gun on your hip. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
DeSantis et al. They're kind of pushing that. Whether it happens, who knows? What else? Florida has a ban on what's called NFA weapons. NFA is things like machine guns.
Okay.
Sawed-off shotguns, silencers at the end of your gun.
Yeah.
And we can't have bump stocks, those things that kind of automatically turn a semi-automatic into more or less an automatic.
Right.
We actually ban certain weapons, okay? And we, believe it or not, have a age limit purchase restriction. You have to be 21 years old in the state of Florida to buy a firearm.
Yep.
All right. So if you're in Florida and you're getting all pissy about what they just did in Washington, why?
Yeah. Well, that, or at least go read before you just start popping off. Because I think a lot of people get upset when they see things like this, and rightfully so. But then they just start saying, "Oh, should do, somebody should do," and like,
you know what they're saying? They're taking away my guns. That's the theory. And it's like, first off, Congress did nothing, and second, we have way more restrictive gun laws than probably 90% of the states. And everybody wants to rag Florida about, we're the Wild West and, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
We have pretty restrictive laws. And I got to be honest, I don't mind any of them. Dude, I have probably 20 guns, from assault rifles to pistols to shotguns to 22s to 30s to 30. I got a lot of guns.
So we have a question that came in.
Go ahead.
It says, is the 21 only for pistols, or has the 18 for long guns been moved to 21? Do you know?
I read it as firearms. So I would say, let me see here. Let's see what this says.
So what we're reading from at the moment is not making that distinction?
No, it says you must be 21, and it says rifles and shotguns may be purchased by a person who is at least 18, is in law enforcement or correction. So the way I read this, it's all guns.
Yeah, so it says at least 18 or in.
No, if you're 18, 19, or 20,
Yeah.
If you're a police officer, I should say, if you're law enforcement or a correction officer, you can buy a rifle and shotgun.
Awesome.
Other than that,
Okay.
you have to be 21 years old.
Right. Okay. Got you. Cool. And the person said thank you for that.
Okay.
Answering that question.
I forget. Okay. So,
Yeah.
I got to be honest. I don't mind a 3-day waiting period. You know what? If you don't want to wait, get a concealed weapons permit and, prove that you're, capable and responsible enough
Right.
to buy a gun and not have to wait 3 days. But 3 days ain't going to kill anybody, because I got to be honest. Sometimes, people have.
Not gonna kill anybody. Watch.
Yeah, like that.
Oh man. You know what though?
I don't mind red
also,
flag laws. If you can go convince a judge, and people may be frown upon the judicial system and this, that, and the other. But I gotta be honest, of course, and I don't agree with every outcome.
Sure.
But for the most part, they get it right. I don't believe there's too many judges, at least in Hillsborough County, that are taking people's guns away that shouldn't be taken away.
Sure.
I don't
also
mind,
keep in mind that
I don't mind. I think you should have to have a permit to carry a gun.
Right.
Just me.
Why not?
And again, I'm as conservative as anybody in this state.
Sure.
But I'm also not an idiot, and I'm okay with common sense regulations on a lot of things.
Certainly, especially accountability. Accountability is
the
not a
ban
bad
on
thing to have.
the machine gun. Yeah, I got no problem with a ban on machine guns.
Mm-hmm.
I got no ban on silencers.
What's interesting though is that people who get excited about the increasing limitations, just keep in mind that the people who don't care about following the laws to begin with are not really gonna.
Well, that's that's always the
you're really only reining in
what's the theory here,
the law-abiding people,
law-abiding citizens, you're keeping guns from them, and of course there's just certainly something to be said about that.
Well, sure.
Yeah, there's no other way about it. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
If you want a gun in America, you can get one, whether you're a criminal or not. All right, well, that's that's it. I was reading some things about how the country's going to hell in a handbasket because Congress passed a meaningless gun law, to be honest. And I thought to educate at least the people of Florida, say, look, that what they did nothing, and we already have a pretty restrictive set of laws on the books that basically go about as far as you can go under the Constitution to have some common sense, regulations. That's it. Now, you don't have to agree with me. That's okay. That doesn't hurt my feelings. But I just wanted to let people know, quit believing all that crap on the internet about how the Congress is taking away your gun in the second, all that BS. Honestly, what they did, they passed something that really did nothing, which, gee, there's a shocker. All right, Jason, that's it. The Lightning are down 3-1. It is no bueno.
Gonna have to bring more than Thunder this time.
They play tonight in Colorado, 8 o'clock. If we lose, that's it. There will be no Stanley Cup boat parade. If we win, we will be back here at Amalie Arena Sunday, 8 p.m. for Game 6. Go Bolts, be the Thunder, and how about just, I like this, be kind to one another. Take us out, Jason.
That's so hard.
Very difficult.